Hey everyone, this is Caitlin with Women in the Trailer Industry.
And Lacey with Women in the Trailer Industry.
I'm Juan with Full Send.
And today we are having our finale podcast. So what does that look like, team? What was our successes for 2022?
Yeah.
Anyone?
A lot has happened in 1 year's time.
Yeah, it's
really
been
hard
a
not to
year.
look at you.
I know.
It's been a year. It's been, January 5th was the first one that we launched.
Yeah.
First what?
Podcast.
Oh.
So,
We were all so fresh.
yeah.
So,
Wet behind the ears.
yes. It
Yeah.
was rough at first.
Well, I'd say we came a long way. I look back on our original podcast episodes and, we were much less confident then, much more unsure of what to say. And now we can definitely get in the flow and, actually have a conversation and a podcast. Well, I feel like.
This is just weird for me because I'm not used to seeing people.
Yeah.
And talking to yourself or talking to your
That was
audience.
the phrase, Han
Yeah.
Solo. So.
I will say, too, it's where we started with just kind of this overnight brainchild. We were like, let's just try this out. Let's just see what happens.
I don't even remember
with
how
it.
it started.
Yeah, it was just like, it really was the middle of the night, like.
So now we did that one in NATDA last year.
Yeah.
It was me, Ryan, and Kiefer. And then it was from the trailer to the couch. And then I think we just talked about it. And then all of a sudden, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. I don't know where Women in the Trailer Industry came from. I think we were just kind of brainstorming one day and we were like, we should do this. And it was probably inspired by, some people we follow on LinkedIn and things like that, seeing their podcast, seeing kind of the growth they were having and, really the direction they were going and culture and branding and whatnot. So we really definitely thought that Women in the Trailer Industry specifically would take off as a a platform for people to connect with the different struggles and successes and failures that they had as women in the trailer industry. So,
Really, it's kind of morphed into just women in leadership, women in general in the workspace.
absolutely, we should stop looking at each other.
Yeah, it's kind of hard when you do every podcast looking at each other.
I know, that's
change.
what I was saying.
Yeah.
Juan, I know you said the trailer to the couch, but what else inspired your full send with Juan Hernandez?
Just industry updates of what's going on, or just there's a lot of channels that help you with sales or help you with operations, but it's like if you're reading from the textbook. It's not really the nitty gritty of the shit that's going on, actually day to day operations, with whether it's in sales operations or just stuff that's going on. So
cool.
And I think your podcast too really just speaks to the name. Like the name speaks to what it is. Like people just want the information with the industry. They don't want all the fluff and everything. And you just full send it every time. Like if it's good or if it's bad or whatever in between. Like you just jump on there and give information, and it gives people something to hear. Like, all right, where are we at without having to go through the hours of BS to get to what's really happening.
And I say you have a success. One of your videos just crossed 7,000 views, huh?
yeah,
It's awesome.
I don't know which one, but yeah.
You were supposed to listen to Kiefer when he said that.
Oh. Yeah, sorry. No, even with the women in the trailer industry, you see a lot. I know Lippert has one. I forgot what. I think Diamond C started one that's focused around the women that's in their industry or in their company, and I want to say there's another company. I can't remember who, but it's women in business. And then it was interesting because there's a women in shipping.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. Yeah.
That is cool how all those industries relate and connect in those ways through all the different podcasts and growth there. So what would y'all say y'all's personal successes would be from this year? Any thoughts?
So a lot of things have happened in this year for me.
I would say so.
It's been kind of a crazy year. The podcast started, which was, something that we wanted to do. We felt strongly about, and we've come a long way, I'd say, with that. And then being promoted to be in a leadership position, taking over that role and responsibility, figuring out where I fit in there and how that's all going to work, and then being pregnant and having a baby in the same year. So I've never been pregnant and have a baby in the same year.
They've experienced the whole, on the podcast, the whole. Hey, y'all, if y'all want to see it from the delivery room, just hit the like button a lot of times.
No.
Like and
this will not be
subscribe.
live streamed, I promise.
You never know.
Yeah.
How about you, Juan?
I don't know. Successes would be just taking the reins in operations, and what I feel would be where it's at now than where it was before. It's in a lot better place. As far as inventory, just the processes behind everything, and just a lot of training, a lot of new people. So it's been very fun. And then also axe manufacturing. I mean, we're going on a year now. Actually, we're about to hit a year on the 22nd of this month. So that's been a growing child too, that a lot of info behind it that was really not shared from the get-go. That's like, well, shit, if I would have known that, I would have approached it a whole different way.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for both of y'all, basically, I would consider success. Y'all both were put in positions that really weren't your area of expertise, or some of it was, but you're really stretched to like learn new roles, learn new responsibilities, and really try to grow that into something. So I would say that's a success for both of y'all.
Give us your success.
Yeah.
I was going to say something more on Juan's, but I don't remember. My successes, well, they were a lot. I would call them successes and growth at the same time, depending on what your definition of success is. But like Juan said, we started axle manufacturing, and that has grown into a business, a project, a working business with employees and things like that. So I think that is successful in a way, just to start that from the ground up and just to really see it blossom. We started the podcast at the beginning. We were, hesitant, kind of nervous, I would
Different.
say. Yeah.
Also, coming from people who don't usually like to speak in public or
exactly.
go out of their comfort zone.
And so now we've definitely been a lot more comfortable in that. And then I think that helped us in a lot of things, actually. This year we implemented EOS, and of course it was the latter part of this year, but we had the conference and we were comfortable public speaking and things. And I'm like, I think back to a year ago and I'm like, I would have never been able to do that. I would have been shaking,
Same.
So it's really interesting to see, like, as the years progress, like the growth that progresses with it, just in confidence and leadership and all the things. So those would be my biggest successes of the year.
I think a success for the podcast in general would be NATDA reaching out to us and just wanting us to be a part of them, or not them, but their show at the trailer show in 2022. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Also, the reception that we felt when we were there, like from the industry, from NATDA for sure, but just seeing how many people they're just following podcasts and they're interested in what we're doing, and it's just refreshing.
So now to the part, what are some failures from this year?
I said this was going to be the hardest one. I still, how do you put it into words? Like, what you said was
I mean, I wouldn't really consider it a failure. I mean,
Exactly.
it's a growing pain. I mean, you learn from your mistakes, or you learn from the failures that you've done. I mean, if you can't learn from it, then at that point it is a failure. I mean, if you can't learn from your mistakes and adapt and grow from it, then at that point I would say it is a failure. But I don't feel personally, for me, that I've had a failure. Everything that in my eyes I've fallen short, I've grown from it and adjusted it and moved on from it to where it's in a better place. So
yeah, for sure. I feel the same way. And I feel like just us taking on new roles and figuring out how to run those things, you're going to have roadblocks. Us growing as a company, you're going to have roadblocks. There's stuff that you could take it as a failure, but really it's not, because we don't ever say well, that sucks. It didn't happen. We figure out how to either make it happen or what to do better to not have it happen again. And I think that we as a company really, we don't dwell on anything as a failure. We make it better. So
Yeah, and just like I said with the success portion, I think more of a failure, it's growth than anything. I had a few like that I've struggled with this year, and it's stagnation. We didn't really grow as much as we were used to this year, and so I've struggled with that. But again, like Lacey said, we're laying out the process, figuring out what we can do better, how we can do better. But also, I think there's a bunch of variables that play into that. Economy, all the things going on there. Different internal structures, like not being reliant on certain people to do the job for us and things like that. So I think we've come a long way just in different ways than we had before. So it looks differently. So in reality, it did grow and it was more successful, but we're just doing it a different way or maybe a different model than we used to, because used to we didn't have all inventory, and you've experienced this all year. And now we're self-sufficient pretty much out of here. We own all of our own stock. We send it out. We're not drop shipping as much. So I would say that leads into a big success right there, to be able to have that bandwidth.
And I mean, you said, we really didn't grow, but I mean, we took some of our bigger players that we knew was a moneymaker, such as your 10Ks, 12Ks, 15Ks, that we sold on a regular basis prior to COVID. And then the stuff that happened, we couldn't get shipments in. So, I mean, for us to hit the same numbers that we did the year before without those key players, I mean, that's still growth, because if we would have been there with those key players, I mean, there's no telling what it would be.
Yeah, exactly.
We had to be flexible for sure. But I think too, also, not just with operationally and sales, with our leadership and structure of our company and hierarchy and giving leadership and providing resources to the people who directly report to us, that has also grown. We used to really, we kind of we're a family where we all
fly
just
by the seat of our pants.
we all just kind of you just ask whoever you ask and somebody will have an answer. We've kind of given direction and made direct reports, which helps your team to grow and to focus on goals that you actually are trying to reach versus just, we're just here every day going to work and doing our job, we're going somewhere now.
Cool. Well, what do you look forward to in 2023?
What do you look forward to in 2023?
I look forward to just how the structure of the business that we put in place, how it, performs in 2023. How once we've done it consistently for so long, how the employees are receptive to it, how we start being in flow, how we start, the point of it is to gain traction. So gain traction and see really where that takes us as a unit in 2023. There. Trying to think of some other things in the pipe.
I think for me specifically would be growth in revenue. Yes, a new baby. Growth in my family. But professionally, growth in revenue, growth in profit, growth in just consistency, so that when we do say that we've grown as a company, it's all on the right foundation that we're setting right now.
What about you, Juan?
I don't know.
Trying to put me on the spot like that.
I was kind of about time to get something for me.
We skimmed through that one real fast.
Growth would be for me to where inventory wise would be, we're on a budget now, but a tighter budget for me would be great, as far as that way I know what's coming in the pipeline. And then as far as manufacturing, I would love to see one of these bigger guys having our axles underneath their trailers and then just kind of giving the big brother a run for their money. We pretty much do that on the retail end, but I'd like to see that more on the B2B side.
Awesome. Yeah, and for our industry as a whole, it'll be interesting in 2023 to see how everything shakes out.
Most definitely.
I think everybody will survive. Everyone will keep doing what they're doing. There'll probably be, with the economy depending on elections, all that stuff going on. I mean, there'll probably be some fluctuations in supply again, and then we'll see some different things in the pipe for this year. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting year, I think, for sure. We've kind of spent 2022 building a foundation that was rock solid, and now it's exciting to see how we're, like you said, how we're going to use that to be successful in 2023 and grow that.
So, question for y'all, curveball. What would you say would be your most memorable moment in 2022?
Well, I actually didn't lead into what one of my failures was, but this year's been pretty stable for me. Nothing too crazy has happened. Leaders have taken care of all the bells and whistles, and so the most extreme thing for me was actually this past month, and hiring a new person, something really bizarre happening, and all the effects after that, and it just kind of leaves you in this like limbo feeling place, like
what just happened?
What just happened, where your decisions sound on all the different decisions that had to be made, and really just perplexed by the whole situation. So I don't remember what the question was, but that was my most interesting thing from this year, I think. But I'm sure there's more, but that one just sticks out to me because it just happened. So
my most memorable as it relates to like the podcast is like just all the things that we say that we don't realize that we say just in talking, and then the slip-ups that you say that don't get cut out because our editing team does not like to cut those out. They like to highlight them instead. So, saying stuff that is probably inappropriate. I mean, you are full sin, but like, I know I've said a lot of things and I'm like, what did I just say? Like, how did that come out?
Take that out.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's funny to look back on, but you just shaking your head at yourself sometimes. But.
Yeah, and I would definitely, to go back and talk about the podcast, I mean, just being at NATDA and actually having a booth there was really interesting and very fun to see all the people who were interested in it and really just kind of getting that feedback of what people want to see and what they're interested in at the time. And then, I mean, I think I watched my first full episode last night, and it was about overcoming stress, and I was like, this is the best podcast yet, and the only one I've listened to full. So, I shared it, but I really enjoyed that one. Yeah. I watched it, and I was in love with it, so I'm going to put it on repeat.
What about you? What's your most memorable time in 2022?
I would have to say Nashville.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
When you got roofied or what?
Well, I mean, the whole week. I mean, getting roofied, leaving Kid Rock's bar, getting helped by the homeless guy back to find their correct hotel.
Or jumped by Dexter.
Yeah. And then the homeless lady licking the window while we're having dinner. I mean, that was kind of weird. But then when we were leaving, the lady that got her freaking finger cut off at the bull riding thing, and I'm like, what the hell? That's a memorable moment for your freaking bachelorette party.
Yeah. Mechanical bull ride gone wrong.
Yeah. And people still wanted to ride the bull. Yeah. I'm like,
with blood on it.
Yeah.
While people are eating. And it's just really random.
Yeah.
Do y'all ever go in somewhere or do something and just expect random shit to happen? Because that's kind of how I felt through this year too. Like, no high expectations, but something's about to go down and I'm just going to watch what it is because I'm not sure if it's going to be normal or not. So,
watch out,
I don't know. That's kind of how 2022's been.
Nashville's
Nothing surprises me at that point.
Every time, the 2 times I've been in Nashville, nothing's really surprised me. There's something always happening. But now, I mean, it was great. I think another memorable moment for me would be the dinner we had in Florida with Tyler and Textro. That was for the crew that we had with us. I knew that was like, holy crap.
Did we
order or not? But
yeah, I guess I know what you're talking about. It was awkward for the others who weren't in the know of what was being discussed. So everyone's like, I don't know if we should order yet or if we should just go ahead and go now.
Yeah.
But all is good. It's all about networking and having those, direct conversations and just.
And they're
getting
not
straight
easy
to the point.
conversations to have, but it's conversations that need to take place. And sometimes they're great, sometimes they're unpleasant, but they have to happen.
I feel like we've had quite a few of those with different vendors and partners that we've had and throughout this year. And I think that just comes from like the year that we've had. Like everybody has a shortage of stuff and then everybody doesn't have a shortage of stuff. And so it's like, everybody's trying to figure out what the new flow is for their company and how do you work with other companies, which we're all in the same industry, right? So we want to be successful. So figuring that out.
And it just amazes me how the trailer industry is so large but so small, because you can't throw a rock at something without somebody knowing somebody.
Yeah.
Perfect example, I was trying to get pricing, going to a competitor from one of my vendors to get pricing, and as soon as I hung up the phone, 5 minutes later, I think you got a phone call like, "Hey, Juan, did you call Redneck and see what was going on?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Why?" Was I not supposed to?
Well, that didn't last long, huh? Yeah. It's like almost a small town, this industry is, so it's interesting for that fact as well. But I think it's all business on a business level, and then it's personal on a personal level, and if people can separate those two, great. And if they can't, then...
I will say that a lot of, I'm calling them gray-hairs. No offense to any of the gray-hairs that I'm speaking to, but they're all retiring. So a lot of, like Tyler mentioned this at NATDA, was, he was doing business with a certain company or a certain individual because of their personal relationship. And now that they're retiring, I mean...
There's no loyalty.
There's no loyalty behind it. Because and a lot of companies still play that, the loyalty card. You want to build that loyalty with your vendors. Right. But at that time, you build it with that one person. So where's that loyalty fall once they retire?
Right.
So...
A lot of changes. A lot of things. People are flexible. You got to be flexible with like what's happening right now. So,
well, I think that wraps up our year of 2022, and this is our finale podcast before Lacey's out on maternity leave, and then you'll see us next year in 2023.
Yeah, and she'll have a baby.
I'll have a baby. I won't have a basketball in my stomach. But like and subscribe, follow us. We want to hear from you guys, so feedback is good. Anything you want to send our way, we are always open to that.
And if you're at NATM, catch us there. We'll have our booth there.
Yeah.
And,
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. You didn't do it.
What?
You didn't do it. Bye.
Oh, well, let's do this.
Oh.